Paul Jauregui, Paul from BK Beauty, co-founder of BK Beauty. As we were prepping for this, you sent me some DMs that indicate the following things have happened with your brand recently, okay? An 8-hour live TikTok live selling with your wife, Lisa, your co-founder, for 8 hours at the TikTok studios in LA.
So last Friday we did one and then had a day break, and then Sunday they did it. And I say we did it. I had nothing to do with it. It was my wife and my team who were out there. But yeah, Friday we did an 8-hour TikTok live stream, bless you. And Sunday, did another one. Pretty wild. And actually Friday, we got word shortly thereafter that we had the #1 GMV generating TikTok live for that day. And on Sunday, we followed up with the second highest for that specific day too. It was pretty wild. The team killed it.
That's unbelievable. Okay, so you did that. Okay. At the same time, you partnered with Maybelline to do a TikTok shop exclusive bundle, and Maybelline reached out to you to do that. Okay. You also appeared on, I think actually maybe right now or something. Your team is on The View on ABC. And then also did something on Good Morning America. Okay. And so all of that was sent to me in preparation for this so that I get my head around some of the things you guys are doing. I'm sure that's only scratching the surface of the level of success you guys have experienced. In my understanding, and we haven't really talked about this, but driven primarily by sort of TikTok Shop's investment as a growth mechanism for your brand. And you can correct me on that in a second. I'm gonna give you some space to sort of fill in some color there. So you're doing all of this. I mean, this is like gigantic major retailers, working with you, huge organic presence, TikTok inviting you to their studios, all of these things. And I also found an old tweet of yours from 2020 that said that you guys that year did $1 million. Okay. So somehow we got from $1 million in 2020, which is an amazing accomplishment, to all the things I just listed off in 2024. And what I want to do with you right now is have you tell me what the heck happened so that other people can figure out how to do the same thing. So let me just pause there. First of all, did I basically get the layout right of the things that you guys are doing right now? Like, is that, and did I also attribute it correctly to like TikTok Shop as a, if not the core driver of this?
Yeah, it's been a busy week. But yeah, let's dive into it. Happy to kind of break it down. And before we do, I just want to say, Andrew, I've been listening to you for years on this podcast and prior ones, and just so awesome to be here with you. I mean, I appreciate everything you put out. You definitely bring kind of a heart of a teacher, and from a tactical and practical approach, I learned a lot from you. So I'm hoping that I get to, through this conversation, share a little bit back, and maybe your audience can have a couple takeaways. But yeah,
that's extremely kind of you to say. Thank you so much. And I'm really glad to have been any help along the way. Like when somebody says they've given me that much of their time and attention, it's like, I do really love teaching. And I appreciate it. I'm super glad to have been some help. It's cool. And I know people building their businesses, and I hope it's successful, So anyway, that, and obviously seeing the outcome like yours and thinking like, oh man, you listened to me along the way. That's encouraging. So
100%.
So thanks for saying that. That's very kind. I'll follow up with a check for that.
You got it. But yeah, so TikTok Shop and BK Beauty, it's really been our big story over the last year. So we were very early to the platform. And so we got on last August before anyone really knew what was going on. It really came out of nowhere. And so we leaned in radically. We wanted to figure out the platform. We identified early that it was keying off of, and what TikTok was building and putting into place, it was just perfectly aligned with kind of our brand DNA and the internal muscles we had developed over the last 5 years. You mentioned back in 2020, we were just crossing the $1 million mark in terms of annual revenue. We launched our brand in 2019, my wife Lisa. And to give you a little context before we get into TikTok Shop, I think it's important to bring that up because it plays such a critical role in terms of like I mentioned these internal muscles that our brand has developed and why we play so well within the creator ecosystem and this closed loop platform that TikTok Shop has come online with. And now you're looking at platforms like YouTube and starting to roll out affiliates and YouTube shopping. I really believe we're at kind of the golden age of social commerce. And it's been a time that I've been waiting for, frankly, for the last 5 years. And so to go back to launch of BK Beauty back in 2019, my wife and I, we launched it together. My wife, Lisa, she's the one with the expertise in the beauty space. She was a professional makeup artist for many, many years. She worked at MAC Cosmetics as a regional trainer, and she had always had a passion for beauty. But in her role at MAC Cosmetics, she was a regional trainer. And so in that role, she traveled around, educated all the other MAC artists on product and technique. And so along that time with Mac and working in that position, she started to really grow a love for the educational component of that and teaching women about makeup and how to use it, which ultimately led to her starting a YouTube channel 10 years ago with really no expectation of what it would lead to, just an outlet for her passions. And so the reason why that's important is 10 years ago, coming from YouTube, building that audience, putting out videos nights and weekends, 3 days a week for 10 years straight. I mean, it just blows my mind that she kept up with it, but it was really that passion was kind of in the heart of it. And then my background is business and marketing. And so we came together and ultimately recognized after a while that we had an opportunity to develop our own brand, and we had that opportunity on the table. And so we really came together and combined her passion and purpose with business ambitions. And that's when the magic just started to happen and click. And so we launched in 2019, kind of started with the foundation of the audience she had built, but quickly grew outside of that. But over the course of 2, 3, 4 years of growing and building the business, our focus was really primarily working within the creator space at that time with a big focus on YouTube. And so because of that, we really understand the mindset and motivation of the content creator. Our approach to influencer marketing and working within the creator space is really it's not a transactional approach in that we're doing a lot of sponsored kind of paid campaigns with creators. It's a lot more on the side of relationship building whereby we are sending a lot of product out, getting into the hands of creators who then love the product, and then ultimately support them through affiliate sales. What's interesting to note is, and I think this is important as we lead up to TikTok Shop and kind of the success we've seen over the last 5 years, but even going down to the product category itself, I guess it's important to share that we're best known for our makeup brushes. It's not color cosmetics, it's actually the tools. And so what's unique about that and why it was a strategic starting point for us as we developed, launched, and started to grow the brand is because we knew our distribution path was through the hands of creators in their videos, get ready with me's, tutorials online through YouTube and these various platforms. And the one commonality between all of those videos over time is they're always using a brush or a tool, whether they're talking about the next, hot, latest and greatest eyeshadow palette from brand X, Y, or Z. There's always a tool or a brush being used. And so we knew if we could get our products in the hands of as many creators as possible, the post frequency, once we got there in the hand, like they had the opportunity to share those products and affiliate links in perpetuity. And so it was an evergreen thing. And so we just kept on, pushing and pushing, getting our products out into the field, into creators' hands. And then ultimately, when TikTok Shop came out of nowhere, end of last year, we saw that all of the building blocks we pulled off the shelf to run this playbook of product seeding supported by affiliate, and then ultimately tapping into the creator ecosystem, TikTok was now building all those components into a closed loop system. And everything was happening within the platform, even the transaction, as now we're all aware of the mechanics and how TikTok Shop is working now. I think everyone's pretty familiar with their model. And what happens when you integrate all of those components into this closed loop system is it just accelerates the entire commerce flywheel. Stuff just starts going much, much faster. And so that's what we experienced over the last 12 years. And because of that, we just got a great deal of visibility and attention that obviously the platform and the channel itself has grown in terms of sales. It's now about a quarter of our total sales is coming from TikTok Shop. But the halo effect and the lift that it provides through other channels, even, you mentioned we're being featured on The View today.
Sure.
That just happened this morning. that is a direct result from the visibility and just the virality that's coming out and spilling out of TikTok and the activity we're doing there within the creator ecosystem. So I'll pause there. But yeah, TikTok is definitely a big part of what we've experienced over the last year. It's been a radical focus, but the benefits have gone wide out of the channel itself.
I want to tell you about my biggest win recently with FERMAT, using FERMAT for one of my brands. If you think of FERMAT as just landing page software, you're really underselling the value of the product to yourself. It's way more than that and way more awesome than that. And the biggest win recently has been with the enhanced PDP feature. So when you send traffic to a FERMAT lander, you can customize the PDP that it links out to as well really quickly and really easily. So we've started with one of my clients building really like changing the product name to include benefits that we're talking about specifically in the product name. Of course, you don't have to go change Shopify product names, anything like that. Pulling specific reviews that pertain to the benefit that the landing page and the whole funnel is talking about, changing up the copy. And so basically I've got custom PDPs attached to the back of landers that I'm working on so that my funnels are just like incredibly tight. And it's making a huge difference. Like we saw a huge conversion rate increase when we tightened up the PDP, including the images, the carousel, everything. We just arranged the whole PDP around benefits we were talking about there, which is great, right? Because normally when you're sending traffic to a PDP, that traffic by the PDP has to be really general, has to be able to pertain to a whole bunch of customers. But the whole value of FERMAT is that you can very quickly and at scale and with the help of your account manager, which we certainly used in this case, right? Go build out endless variations of tight funnels that you can test rapidly. I tested this whole thing in their A/B testing software. Everything is built right there, really easy to use, really easy to stay on top of. Just really awesome. I'm really hot on this feature, particularly in the product. And we're starting to do it for more and more and more of our funnels because I think having really tight PDPs relative to the messaging at the ad level is a major unlock for how to make it so that your creative resonates all the way through the funnel more deeply with customers, including opening up new customers that you previously weren't reaching. There's all kinds of different things you can do here. I love it. Use FERMAT. Check it out. If you're serious about building funnels in your ad account, go to fermatcommerce.com/AF, fermatcommerce.com/AF. The link's in the show notes to look into how you can build better funnels at massive scale for your ad account and for all of your traffic today. So I did something sneaky here that you don't know about, which is that I just also interviewed Jordan West. Do you know Jordan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'd figure, right. So, he's moving his whole agency towards the social commerce thing. Mm-hmm. And I did that without telling you that I was doing that, which is that I wanted to do a couple episodes in a row. Maybe I told you that, I don't know, but I told a couple episodes in a row hitting this and just sort of see how people say this. Cause I just don't know anything about TikTok Shop. Like it's just like not an area that I've played in. I'm really interested in how many things you just said are exactly in line with what he said. It sort of confirms to me sort of from the brand and the agency perspective, the playbook perspective of how to think about the platform. There's a few things I hear in what you said that sort of fit that. One of them is just like the social commerce moment is a real thing and it's probably going to keep accelerating based on, the platforms being what they are and the way they're building things out. We haven't even gotten to Instagram doing their version yet or whatever. Like it's obviously it's going to come, the way you described your relationship with creators is really fascinating to me. I mean, Jordan definitely described it in more financial terms in terms of some of these things, but similarly, just like so much of this comes down to, you're not just throwing a bunch of money at people and saying, sell my product. It's like, use this, love it. Let me send you the product. Let's definitely create a great incentive for you once those things are established, have a real relationship. How can we really be supportive of you? We're not just trying to leech off of your following and your ability to sell, but actually have real partnership in it. I hear that there. And then this halo effect comment as well, I think is really fascinating, which is like, I actually, just from the way your story has been told, I sort of would have thought TikTok Shop would have represented a larger percentage of your total sales directly, but 25% is interesting as an indication of like, actually, no, what it's actually doing is like, I don't know how to say it. It's like, and the only example I can think of is like, it's like almost like a fullback in football. Some people are not going to get that analogy if they're not football people, but just the idea that it's like sort of paving the way to have a lot of other stuff come behind it, basically. But it's a crucial lead marketing mechanism. Awareness builder is probably too light of a term because you're selling a lot of stuff still on TikTok Shop. So anyway, I think that's all extremely fascinating all the way around, because I think one of the dangers when people hear about new channels like this is that they're going to think about it as the channel is what works. It's almost like the channel works, and so go make the channel work for you. Right. And there's truth to that. The channel does work in a certain way, but what you're describing is actually something different than that, which is that like excellent use of every part of it so that this flywheel effect that you described gets spinning. can make the channel work for you. But the mistake, and I'm curious if you agree with this, the mistake people will make is they will listen to an interview like this and they will go like, oh, gotta get on TikTok shop, it works.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll just kind of start trying to find some creators and throw money at it, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's accurate? That's sort of not going to work for people? It's sort of not that simple?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, is the answer to that. And so when we first got on TikTok shop, and again, back last August, when it came out of nowhere, our biggest constraint at the time was activating creators, because creators didn't even know it existed. It literally came out of nowhere. But for us, when we started, it was the right time, right place, and the right people. I mentioned these kind of internal muscles that we had been developing over the course of 5 years. Like we were the perfect candidate to be teed up to have success early within TikTok shops. And we had already done the hard work. And to your point, if you haven't laid in that foundation, and that foundation is getting your products in the hands of creators, like that's a lot of lift right there. That's a lot of to get the momentum going. And we had been doing that for 18 months leading up to TikTok shops coming online. And so we had already done the hard work. And now creators could start benefiting from that. And so, yeah, I think it is potentially a trap to hear success stories, to think that there wasn't a lot of groundwork done before diving in and finding success within TikTok shops. There certainly was for us. And it's a long game. We had been developing kind of, again, those internal muscles and getting our products out in the field for years leading up to that. And so, there's a lot of work that comes into it for sure.
Let's talk about a little bit more of the muscle building. Because if that's the alternative to what I just said, which is the sort of the trap of thinking about this as sort of like an arbitrage channel that you just go and put up a video and you sell a bunch of product or whatever. If that's the trap, let's break down the muscle building a little bit more. So you've referenced this a couple of times. You guys already had some muscles around this. You were already creating relationships with creators. What describe that sort of before TikTok shops and what you were doing with them, why you were doing it, and anything you can tell us about how much it was costing you would be really interesting as well, and sort of where you saw the return on it. Like just sort of describe that system.
Yeah, so early days, what it looked like is really just doing reach outs. I'm sure these are activities that most other brands are doing today.
On TikTok?
Well, so even prior to TikTok, even before TikTok, the platform, not even shops was around, right? We got our start on YouTube working within creators. Very similar approach. It's really just living within the platform, within that ecosystem, knowing the content, and then starting to reach out to creators and develop relationships, engaging with their content and sending out product. And so it's the long game. And so that stuff takes a lot of time to build up week over week, month over month, to get your product out to the field, start getting videos going. And we had been disciplined in just doing that on an ongoing basis because we knew it worked, because we saw with my wife, Lisa, we really understood the mindset and motivation of the content creator. And if you think about it, and I know you and your audience coming a lot more from the performance side of the fence. And if you think about kind of inventory, right, from kind of a performance and paid media standpoint, like there's a certain amount of inventory that you're all vying for, right, within, say, Meta, right? These impressions, these ad placements. When it comes to content creators, they also are working with a fixed set of inventory, right? I mentioned my wife, Lisa, for the last 10 years, been putting out 10 videos on YouTube a week, every single week. That's a fixed set of inventory that she has to work with, right? There's also the dynamic. And again, I'm bringing all this up to help share our understanding of the mindset and motivation of the content creator and how brands can best work within that understanding. And so if you think about it, a content creator, many of them, once they reach a certain scale, will start engaging with brand deals, sponsorships, and having kind of hashtag paid type content, right? But they can't be 100% that, right? So there is an allotment of inventory and time within their platform and content, definitely within the beauty category, which is a lot about product reviews, tutorials, get ready with me. So they're talking about product all day long. And so there is opportunity for a lot of organic placements to get your products in there. And assuming that everyone that's listening to this checks the box like, hey, product is stellar, high quality, like you're checking all those boxes, like that's table stakes, right? But moving beyond that, getting your products in the hands of creators giving them the opportunity to share it in kind of an ongoing way. I mentioned that our specific product, makeup brushes and tools, has the properties to be able to be shared in an evergreen way. And so every single video, there's an opportunity for the creators to continue to use it. That's not the same for some brands. So again, there's a lot of dynamics that come into play from the product category, your approach with creators, your post frequency, your ability for those products to have a shelf life within the creator's kind of long-term publishing standpoint. And so for us, we're just optimized on a lot of those fronts to be able to leverage the organic side of those placements very, very well. And so that's really been the area we played with. And so from a tactical standpoint, what that means is just a lot of reach outs early on, a lot of, hey, we love your content. We'd love to send you product. No expectations. We hope you love it kind of thing. Some of those will hit. We'll be able to send those out. Again, these are things brands already know, right? And we support it with affiliate sales behind that. And so once we get up to TikTok, and we were continuing to run that playbook for many years, when TikTok comes around, and now we're dealing with a closed loop system, and these products have a certain lift of virality. And now there's actually mechanisms and mechanics within the platform to do inbound product sampling requests. And so instead of outbound, a lot of overhead, where on YouTube, internally, there was a lot of overhead and reach outs. There's a cap to our ability to do that in-house. On TikTok, now, once we get the flywheel spinning, we have inbound requests coming in that the volume is just surpassing anything that we could have imagined. And the overhead internally to field those and act on them is very, very low. And so relative to, say, YouTube, which is still a powerhouse for us, we're on YouTube, we're dealing with maybe hundreds of creators. TikTok, it's thousands. Like looking within Seller Center right now, there's, I think last I checked, 20,000 creators who have tagged or in their product showcase our products. And so the volume that you're able to tap into on TikTok it's a different beast. And so instead of placing bets and doing quality reach outs to individuals and placing bets on specific horses within YouTube stable, TikTok, you're just opening up the stable and letting the entire herd run wild, right? You got to give up a little bit of control, right, from a brand's perspective. And so that's something to consider. There's a comfort level there. It's something we got over very quickly once we saw success. But yeah, letting go of control, getting your product out in the field in a very big way. Of course, your margins have to support your ability to do that all day long. Fortunately for us, like we can support that all day long. And so again, there's all these qualities within a brand and the product category, from margin to profile of product, that could be optimized for TikTok and this playbook I'm talking about. Whereas some brands may not be optimized so much on some of these categories, and it may not be the best fit. And there may be not as much of a tailwind that they experience behind their back.
Literally, as Paul was talking in this interview, I was thinking about how if I was building out the content generation, influencer seeding machine that he is building out, I would do it with help from my friends at More Staffing. I would hire someone in the Philippines who had a vision for what I was doing, put them in charge of this program, and get them seeding products to all kinds of influencers in the space. There is simply no better way to staff up your team internationally in the Philippines than with my friends at More Staffing. Morestaffing.co/AF is where you can go to get started with them. More Staffing gets you access to incredible talent in the Philippines. I know this because I've built up my own internal team with More Staffing. I've been working with them for over a year. I love them. I'm going to visit them soon in the Philippines and keep working together more deeply because they are touching every part of my business at this point. And I immediately thought about how if I was building out the thing, like I said, that Paul did with BK Beauty in this brand, I would be building that machine in the Philippines with people who were not just cheap, like not just $5 an hour virtual assistant level talent. I'd be looking for somebody to really run this program, take over the communication with influencers, think strategically about how to build it up, because More Staffing gets you access to not just cheap talent, but incredibly good quality talent by paying above market rate in the Philippines or the high end of market rate in the Philippines. You attract great talent, and it's still way less money than attracting that same talent in the US. Go to morestaffing.co/AF to start thinking about where you can hire in your business with incredible people in the Philippines right now. I don't know why you wouldn't do it if your team is already remote. Morestaffing.co/AF. Okay, I love what you're saying about category and margin. It, like, you have this element of when I think about sort of makeup brushes as a core product, I think of it as presumably very high margin and presumably very cheap to ship, which has a real advantage when you're shipping out a lot of product from a cost perspective to a bunch of different creators. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'm fairly confident that's right. It also, as you said with category, like there's just so much content on the internet of women showing their beauty routines and tips, and there's a sort of social element of it, of different creators who have these different, whether they're trying to build a giant following or they're just, I don't know, just showing stuff for, some group that they care about, some niche they care about. That seems like an endless amount of potential content there, as long as the content is basically right. Like you said, you give up some control there, but anyway, it's easy to see how the category and the margin fit are exactly like what you're saying here in for you. And I think that's a very good thing for people to tag as well here, which is like, this probably tells you something about how good or not of a channel this is. I actually want to clarify one thing, then I have a follow-up question to that. Quickly, so you said 20,000 people have tagged you on TikTok. Is that right?
Yeah, a video that has tagged our products, talking about our products, or it's in their product showcase. Yeah.
Okay, and then of those, how many of those do you think you sent free product to?
That's a good question. I don't have the answer to that. I don't even know if I'd be able to find that outside of just looking at how many product samples we have sent out. Yeah. Oh gosh.
I mean, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like the scale at which you have been sending out free product to people, and sort of.
Good question. So what I can say, I'll break it down, kind of thinking through it. I don't have the exact number, but I can get to kind of an estimate by kind of stepping through it. So let's step through it. So when we first started on TikTok Shop, we weren't getting any inbound requests. Prior to TikTok Shop coming online a little over a year ago, we had already been sending out product. We were maybe at most sending out to TikTok creators specifically, maybe 10, let's call it 10 a week, 10 products getting in their hands. So not a lot. So prior to TikTok's, maybe 100 plus people, give or take, right? Talking about us. When TikTok Shop started coming online, our products and certain SKUs were really getting momentum and lift and a lot of visibility within TikTok. That happened pretty quickly within the first month or two. And then this time last year was kind of a breakout month as we were entering into peak holiday on TikTok Shop. At the time, TikTok Shop was offering a lot of subsidies and free shipping and just conversion. It was so easy to convert at the time. And so there was a lot of sell-through from specific SKUs. We're continuing to send out products, do reach out to activate creators. And it wasn't until, I got to say, December, January, where the inbound product requests really started to turn on for us within the platform. It got to the point where maybe January, February, and it continued all the way through, the first couple months of this year. But it got to the point where we were getting anywhere from maybe 30, let's call it 30 inbound product sampling requests a day. I think it's subsided since, but back at that point, if you kind of build that out on a monthly basis, that's upwards of about 1,000 per month, right? And so if you kind of map that out, it's definitely several thousand product samples that we've sent out over the course of the year, like several. And so out of that 20, it's 20,000 that have tagged our products within videos. We've sent definitely less than half of those were seeded. Yeah. So something like that. Let's call it 30, 40% of those.
Right. Do you guys do you just keep a giant budget line item somewhere for this of just like, or?
So what winning looks like for me is if everybody in the beauty category has their tools in their hands. So like, no, it's unlimited. Like just send it out.
Yeah. I mean, I guess just like, I'm assuming you're just forecasting like, it's interesting. I mean, the way to think about that, right, is like you're building everything towards the goal you just stated, like I know you don't probably have like a budget of like, we're only going to give out this many. Like it sounds like for you, it's just like the mass awareness that you're talking about happens via getting it in everybody's hand. And so, it's just an interesting thing to try to forecast. And it is like, how many are we going to give away? Even from a supply chain perspective of just sort of like, how do you make sure you have enough inventory if you're giving away? I guess it's probably still pales in comparison to the total volume of moving, but it's a fascinating thing. The other question I was going to ask you is specifically about TikTok. Do you know, you might not know, I mean, it's obviously a perfect platform for what you're doing. Do you know anything about the demographics of TikTok usage at this point?
Yeah. So what we've seen, definitely early days TikTok Shop, when we're able to see like who's purchasing our product and ultimately like who is using our product on TikTok and talking about it, it definitely started to skew to a younger demographic. Early days for us on YouTube, when first 4 years of building our brand, our core buyer was the mature woman, and so people in their sweet spot was late 30s, 40s, but also 50s and 60s and up was a big chunk of the individual we were selling into. When TikTok Shop came online, and even to the point where we had specific products that were designed for mature skin. When TikTok Shop came online a little over a year ago, we now had the opportunity, and we were seeing even content creators we'd work with on YouTube. They would reach out to us and tell us, "Hey, my daughter is running into my room, stealing my Angie Hot and Flashy concealer brush," and so it basically helped us tap into a younger demographic and kind of span that age gap to sell into kind of the younger space. But that's not to say that a full spectrum of audience is available on YouTube. I think it definitely does skew younger, but in terms of the people who are actually paying for products and have kind of their wallet open, still kind of the 30s and 40s and up is definitely a strong category for us in TikTok these days.
Meitab Bogle coming back on the show in just a couple weeks to talk all about how to scale up your business while keeping it really lean and profitable, how to manage people well. You're not going to want to miss that conversation. Subscribe wherever you're watching or listening so that you don't miss out. Yep, that makes sense. It's funny. I mean, you might, just because I remember seeing a panel at like a Meta event where it was like, here's what Gen Z is concerned about trend wise. And they brought on these sort of like 20-year-old female Gen Z influencer types. And I remember thinking like, why are we listening to them? It is people 20 years older than them who have all the money, who are buying all the stuff everywhere. I mean, there's probably, there's some value to that, of course, in all kinds of ways, but what you're describing is interesting to me. Let's talk about halo effect, other channels, some of those things as well, including with this creator content. I'm assuming at this point, tell me if this is wrong, that your Meta spend, for example, first of all, I have no idea how significant it is in your business, how big of a part of your total business it is, but I'm assuming that your Meta spend is powered overwhelmingly by content that you're getting from these creators and other channels.
Yeah, 100%. So we're spending about 30% of top line revenue on paid media. Most of that is still going to Meta.
I mean, that's wild. That is wild to me because even for a brand as TikTok Shop Forward as you guys, that's still a big chunk of revenue going to Meta. It's like even for you, a brand, because part of the reason people are so that's really interesting. Part of the reason people are so excited about a channel like TikTok Shop, right, is that it diversifies their mix, right? They're able to get out of being stuck on Meta, which is what I think everybody feels. And yet, even for you, it represents probably a very large portion of your total revenue. Anyway, I cut you off, but go ahead and keep saying more about sort of how that channel plays in and how creative and all those things.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of hitting peak holiday right now. Yesterday, we spent 6 figures on Meta. Like, it's significant. And so, from a creative standpoint, you're right. Everything is coming from just organically produced creator content. And the beautiful thing, I think you'll really appreciate this, is I guess it was maybe last week your episode was with Pretty and Fig talking about just like hundreds of creatives a month in terms of just iterating and just manufacturing and optimizing the hook and the offer and just all this kind of stuff. The beautiful thing so we're spending 8 figures on Meta ads this year, right? I'm a pretty lazy, I run all the campaigns myself and I just drop in creative. Like, it's not sophisticated, but we're able to scale it because we have this halo effect of awareness that's coming out, that's hitting people from multiple platforms. The content performs really well on Meta. And the beautiful thing is within TikTok is such an echo chamber. Like, I mentioned all the creators that are talking about a specific SKU of ours, let's say, like one of our hero SKUs. The beautiful thing is the TikTok algorithm, it's always been known for taking things viral, right? Whether it's like a trending dance, some cultural phenomena. And now for the first time over the last year, it's now keying off of transactional data. And those transactions are now propelling SKUs to be able to kind of surge up and go viral and get this visibility. And what happens with that is the algorithm is so good at picking content that has tag specific SKUs, and that content is performing and transacting. It's just optimized, right? And so everything that feeds into that, from the hook, the messaging, like everything that's in there, is getting more visibility within the platform. And those creator videos are taking off and being seen by other creators on the platform that are just mimicking that and just tweaking it further. And so we don't have to manufacture and iterate and test internally on the hook or any sort of attributes on the creative to optimize it. That's done for us because we've let go of control. We've put our product out in the field. And now I have an army of 20,000 people who are doing the work for me. And I'm able to measure the performance of that organic content and then pull the winners out and drop them into, paid channels on, within TikTok itself to get more scalable, predictable revenue, but then ultimately bring it into new platforms like Meta. And Meta has the ability to really scale spend because that's what they do best. And so we're seeing a lot of great performance there. We just started on AppLovin, which everybody's talking about. We started that yesterday. We're only 24 hours in, but that same content is being dropped in there as well. And so it's the short form content that it's been produced and optimized for us, and it's working really well.
On Meta, do you generate any separate ad content? Like, do you go make ads, or do you literally just use only creator content?
I pretty much have only been using creator content. I just started building out some statics because I feel embarrassed that our campaigns and ad structures are so simple and they're publicly visible through, the Facebook library. And I'm just like, oh, I got to test some new stuff just so I don't look like an idiot here, but it works well too. And so, we're starting to mix in some other stuff in the mix, and it's working well.
Well, I don't think anybody's looking at your business thinking that you're an idiot. I think they know nothing about it. I think they're looking at it and going like, this is awesome. I mean, it's interesting. There's a way of telling your story that goes like this. You sent product to influencers, and then you help scale the influencer content with the available digital tools when the influencers create content. And that everything else that you're describing is wrapping around that core playbook. Right. Now, I don't want to oversimplify it in the sense of oversimplifying what goes into that, right? Developing the product, making sure it's great. Your wife doing 10 videos a week on YouTube, that stuff makes a difference for how you got to the thing you got to, deeply knowing your customer, et cetera. But I think there's something interesting there to think about. I remember an old diagram that Taylor and I used to draw for people. I think probably Taylor first drew it. And it was like, it goes like this, like the adoption curve for any product is that the people, all the money, the largest group of people who will actually generate profit for you in your business, those people are gated to some degree by a group of influencers on the front end. And so all the money comes from the larger audience in terms of like the profit for your business. But this group that gates it on the front end, or represents the real pathway to those people, gate might be too strong of a word, but represents the real pathway to those people, are on the front end. And those are the influencers who influence those communities in various niches and all those kinds of things. And the thing is, getting product into the hands of those influencers is never profitable. It's expensive. And now, I mean, it sounds like you have some unit economic value, benefits that make it so that it was not so expensive for you guys. But that, I'm also hearing you talk about like spending years before the floodgates open, basically, of doing this kind of work. So you go and find those influencers, and that group is a smaller group that influences the masses. And the best way to reach that mass group where the profit is through that smaller sort of gatekeeper group. Again, even that maybe is too strong of a word, but that idea, and that group is not profitable to reach. Basically, it's actually a cost center to reach them, and that successful businesses essentially just figure out how to solve that problem on the market, at least on the marketing side. There's of course plenty of other problems in the business to solve all the time, right? Operations and everything else. I think if you think of the framework, and again, I want you to correct anything that I just said if you think I haven't laid out the right framework here. If you think of that framework, then every tool becomes available to you insofar as it creates a profitable distribution channel for that kind of content, right? Like if YouTube opens shops, YouTube shops, and you already have the influencers part done, you've already solved the gatekeeper problem, basically, right? You're going to be able to take advantage of that channel in a way that other people can't. Well, other people will rush straight to the channel, and they will not instead think about this real, like simple, this kind of fits with some things I've heard Taylor talking about a lot recently, which is just like actually building a brand that has deep resonance with the people who care about it the most first, and thinking about how do we make sure those people really love this brand, identify with it, getting product in their hands, and that can be slow work. And look, like if you do a great job on meta ads, you can grow your brand pretty fast. It doesn't have to be a super long drawn out. Like you can be profitable from day one in a lot of businesses, right? But that in the grand scheme, the way to make this thing really big like that is basically through that framework. And then again, as channels open up, now you can take advantage of meta at scale, and you can do all the tactics that make that possible. And whatever. Listen to me and listen to other people and say, here's how to go do it. Here's how to use the channel. Okay. But actually the thing that you have to compare to what you said about the Jack Rubin episode is totally right, which is like this ability to generate concepts at scale via creators, because you have the influencers already. So you have the gatekeepers, so you go there. TikTok Shop opens up. You actually already had the muscles built. Like you said, that was sort of your framing of it, is like the muscles built, and now TikTok Shop happens and you are primed to go take advantage of the channel because you've got the gatekeepers solved. And so as I'm thinking about this for my brands that I'm working with, and I'm sort of processing what you're saying, I think that's probably the thing that I think I would say to them to do a better job of. Now, for some of them, this actually is prohibitively expensive. There's some products that cost a lot of money to seed, and it's a slower work and all those things. But if you know who that customer is and you're deep on who the resonance is, then to go attack that group. And I have actually seen brands do this well sometimes, even if it is more expensive, just by niching down a little bit more first. So like, you're talking about a category in beauty that is so gigantic, and there's so much money there and so many influencers there, like all these things. So maybe there are niches within beauty that you guys particularly appeal to. You mentioned some age demographics and some of those things, and you could kind of give me those specifics. But, I know I've thought about this sometimes where the example I always think of is Kalo. We started with CrossFit, right? It was a new brand. And CrossFit is actually a much more niche community. It's actually sort of the perfect community for this. And we were just everywhere where CrossFitters were. I've used that example a million times. I've heard Taylor use that example a million times as well. But that is one of the ways you could think about this problem, is like, if you're going like, okay, I want to seed out a lot of product. I want to do Paul's playbook here, but I can't go and give out 1,000 things a month. I don't have that kind of scale. Like you're talking about, I can't seed 1,000 products a month or whatever it is. That is, I think, a way you can do this, is to go find some niche group where you're like, okay, we want to hit this subgroup. And then what we want to do is figure out how, once that one is successful, then you add the next group. Maybe it's a slightly bigger one, and whatever, once you've gotten to the profitable part of the demand curve, or whatever. So what do you think of that framework, the way that I just laid it out? Do you think that's about right?
Yeah, totally. And I think a way to abstract it and talk about it in very straightforward terms is it's all about the path to the consumer, right? And how you influence those consumers. 20 years ago, when my wife, Lisa, worked at MAC Cosmetics, the consumers would, in our category, they would have to visit the retail counter to get their education, to understand, discover new products. It was understood they needed to go there to inform their purchasing decisions. Well, fast forward to today, that same consumer goes straight to YouTube. That is where the path to the consumer is, to influence them, to inform their purchasing decisions, and to educate them about the options out there in the market. And because of that, that's where we start. We understand our unfair advantage is having a direct path to educate the consumer, help them discover new products, and some of those products are ours, right? And so that's where we play. That's where we radically focus. And it's about the path to the consumer. It's about understanding your unfair advantage and where and precisely when to apply that unfair advantage. And for us, it's working within the creator ecosystem. It's radically focusing on that playbook I talked about. And then from there, everything else works, right? At the end of the day, if I get what winning looks like is if I get my product in the hands of all these people who control the path to the customer, to inform them, to educate them. If I get my product in their hands, everything else takes care of itself, right? And so I don't have a budget for product seeding. Again, the more I send out, everything else takes care of itself. TikTok Shop has accelerated this playbook in a massive way now that it's a closed loop system and the algorithm is really leaning into this. Even to the point where we got onboarded into Amazon earlier this year. The only reason we went in there is because people were searching for us like no other. Our branded search volume on Amazon Marketplace was just shooting through the roof.
Yeah, now it's demand capture.
Exactly. And so we excel at creating demand. TikTok Shop is a place where we do it really, really well because of the mechanics and the the mechanics of the platform itself. YouTube as well. And so again, it's wherever the creator ecosystem where people are consuming content. 5 years ago, I strongly believe that the sale actually takes place while the consumer is consuming the content. They just have to click the description box below to visit my website, to give me their shipping address and credit card so we can facilitate a transaction. But now the transaction is moving upstream to the point of consumption of the content. And so it's just accelerating everything. And so, yeah, I mentioned we got on Amazon, we flipped on the lights and product into FBA. And because the demand we had generated was so high, overnight we were the top selling new release in our category. We have some of the top products there because, again, it's just capturing that demand that we're generating. And so we're continuing to apply our focus and that unfair advantage and just radically focusing on that. And again, everything else takes care of itself from there. Yeah.
That's so helpful. Okay. I could do this for a long time with you. I think your clarity about sort of your system is really helpful, but I'm going to pause there. We'll have to do a follow-up sometime if you've got time. Is there anything else that I didn't get to, that I didn't ask about, that you think is really crucial to your guys' story that would help people think through how to apply some of the things that you've learned into their businesses? It could be TikTok Shop demand curve related. It could be totally unrelated to that, something else that you do, but just anything else in there that I didn't get to that you think is really important?
I think one thing is, you mentioned some of the TikTok lives that we did recently. It's a big focus of what we're doing right now within the platform. I think early days, it was really the playbook that we've been mostly talking about, which is a lot of product seeding supported by affiliate commissions, and layer in kind of paid to support scalable, predictable revenue from there. But now what's coming online in a big way for TikTok Shop, and it's been our focus for the last maybe 4 months now, is live streaming, long form live streaming. We've done several super lives, which is 8 hours in duration. They're pretty crazy. Those lives are generating, six figures, multiple six figures, a single live. It's high impact.
Does your wife just sleep for days after doing something like that, or does she just have the ability to just turn it on for that long and be fine?
She blows me away because she comes from YouTube world where it's edited, right. It's her in a room by herself and she can hit pause whenever. But yeah, these lives, she was honestly, she'll tell you she was very intimidated about going into to live streaming earlier this year. She got more comfortable with it. And now, again, I didn't go with the team out to LA to kind of be present on stage for these lives. I was watching them back here in Austin, like everyone else. And she just blows me away. Like she has it, and actually so much to the point where, I think live selling is an area that we're really going to lean into in a big way going forward. I think TikTok Shop, and our experience that we're developing. And again, it goes back to these muscles that you're developing. I feel as though our team and internally, live selling is another muscle that we're starting to develop and become very strong in. And so next year, my wife Lisa is going to be live on Good Morning America next March. Live selling. And so that just provides, again, it's these, I think the message and the takeaway is know what your internal superpowers are, these muscles you continue to develop and work on, and then understand where you can apply them in the market, what channel, what place, and where they're going to work best. And for us, that's a new thing that's coming online. But I think the message is you really got to look internal and understand what your superpowers are. And until you know what they are, it's going to be, I think you're going to be trying a bunch of different things with kind of potentially being uninformed and. So anyways, I'll go ahead and kind of leave you with that.
No, that's a great, super tactical thing to grab onto at the end. Paul, thanks so much for your time and for the clarity to all these. This was a very helpful conversation for me personally. I think it's making me think about how I frame up things with my own clients, some of those things. So I appreciate it so much. The link to follow up with Paul is in the show notes, but he's a great follow on X and on LinkedIn as well. Paul Jauregui. And so I will leave the spelling for that into the show notes. So go follow him though. It's really awesome. Then go get yourself to BK Beauty for holiday time for you, for your partner, for whoever, and get going. So thanks, Paul. I appreciate it so much. And I'm hoping we'll talk again next time your wife comes out to LA for a live selling day. Come with her, and then let's get some food.
Sounds great. Loved it, Andrew. Appreciate it. Take care.
Right, thanks. And I absolutely loved that interview. Sometimes I finish a conversation and I think I've got to send this right away to my clients. And this is one of those conversations. I'm going to do that. I think there's so much here that's so helpful. I hope it was as helpful to you. Do follow up with Paul to get more of his content. Incredibly generous, sharing what he's learning at BK Beauty with a lot of people. So go do that now. If you would like to follow up with me, you can do that at ajfgrowth.com to see everything I'm doing at any given time. You can also email me at podcast@ajfgrowth.com or reach out to me on X at Andrew J. Ferris. I'd love to hear from you. Any questions, thoughts, anything like that are always welcome, including if you have ideas for something you want me to talk about or someone you want me to talk to. Please send that my way. Don't forget to follow up with my sponsors. They're really great. I work hard to vet sponsors that I actually use, and so I recommend them to you. Go work with FERMAT Commerce by going to fermatcommerce.com/AF to build funnels the same way you build ads, and go to morestaffing.co/AF to build your team in the Philippines with the best people I know of who can lead you through that. They are amazing. Go to More Staffing to get started with that today. Thanks so much for watching and for listening. Do subscribe wherever you're doing those things. I'll talk to you next time.